Welcome to Sleepy Stories. This isn't a story about being hunted. It's about being replaced. Sit back and listen carefully. The Place That Never Called You Back, a real-based American horror story. Part 1, The Town That Didn't Make the News. If you're looking for the town of Briar Hollow, Pennsylvania, you won't find much. No documentaries. No Netflix specials. No viral Reddit threads with millions of upvotes. That's the first thing people get wrong about real horror. Real horror doesn't trend. Briar Hollow sits about 40 minutes off the interstate, tucked behind miles of trees and old mining land. The kind of place you only pass through if you already know it exists, or if your GPS messes up. Population barely crossed 900 the last time anyone bothered counting. One grocery store. One diner that closes at 7 p.m. One sheriff's office with 2 cruisers and a coffee machine older than the building. And a silence that feels heavy, not quiet. Heavy. Locals don't talk about that part unless you're one of them. And even then, they don't explain it. They just say things like, don't stay out too late. Lock your doors, even if it feels stupid. If you hear something call your name, just ignore it. That last one sounds like a joke, until you realize nobody's laughing. Why I went there. My name is Evan Mercer. In 2016, I was working contract audio jobs, small podcasts, local radio, documentary voice cleanup. Nothing fancy, just enough to pay rent. A friend of mine, Caleb, sent me a message one night. You ever hear of Briar Hollow? I hadn't. He told me his uncle had lived there, died there, natural causes, technically, but the way Caleb said it felt off. Then he said something I couldn't shake. People that don't disappear. They just stop checking in. That's not a phrase anyone uses casually. So I did what anyone with too much curiosity and not enough sense would do. I packed my gear, hit the road, and told myself I was just collecting ambience for a horror podcast. That's the lie I needed. First night in Briar Hollow. The town looks normal at first glance. American flags on porches. Pickup trucks with rusted bumpers. Old men sitting outside the diner like they've been there since Reagan. But once the sun goes down, everything changes. Lights turn off early. Porches go dark. Windows feel watched. I checked into the only motel, if you can call it that. 1 floor. 12 rooms. Smelled like bleach and old carpet. The clerk didn't ask for my ID right away. Instead, he asked, passing through. I said yeah. He nodded, then added, good. That was it. No smile, no small talk, just good. The first sound, around 2:17 a.m., I woke up, not from a noise, from the absence of one. You ever wake up and realize everything is too still? No crickets, no AC hum, no road noise, just pressure, like the air got thicker. Then I heard it, a voice. Not loud, not whispered, normal, right outside my door. Evan. I froze. Nobody at the motel knew my name. I didn't answer. The voice tried again. Same tone, same distance. Evan, you awake? That's when it hit me. The voice sounded like me. Same cadence. Same hesitation at the end of sentences, like a bad recording played back wrong. I stayed still until morning. The voice never knocked. It just stopped. Part 2. Everyone hears it eventually. I didn't leave the next morning. That's the part one still can't explain. Any sane person would have bailed. But curiosity has weight. And once it sits on you, it's hard to move. I went to the diner. Same old man. Same burnt coffee. I asked a waitress, mid-50s, tired eyes, how long she'd lived there. All my life, she said. I asked if people ever heard things at night. She didn't ask what kind of things. She just poured more coffee and said, it starts with your name. I swear my stomach dropped. The rules, unofficial. Over the next 2 days, people told me pieces. Never the full picture. Rule 1, don't respond if you hear your name outside at night. Rule 2, don't follow voices into the trees. Ever. Rule 3, if someone stops answering calls, don't go looking alone. Nobody explained why. They didn't need to, because everyone had a story. The first disappearance. His name was Mark Delaney. 32. Lived 5 minutes from town. Worked construction. Known for being loud, always joking. 3 weeks before I arrived, Mark stopped showing up. His truck was found parked in his driveway. Keys inside. Phone on the seat. Front door wide open. No signs of a struggle. The sheriff called it a personal decision. Nobody else did. Mark's sister told me something off record. She said he called her the night before. Sounded shaken. Kept asking if she could hear someone breathing on the line. Then he said, "It keeps using my voice now." She thought he was messing around. She hangs up on herself every night for that. The recording. On my third night, I set up my MIC. Not outside. Inside my room. Low gain. Just to catch ambience. I didn't expect anything. At 2:41 a.m., the waveform spiked. Playback gave me chills. You hear silence. Then a breath. Then my voice. Clear as day. Saying, "You can come out now. We're the same." I never said that. I was asleep. The old mine. There's an abandoned mine shaft about a mile past the tree line. Closed since the 70s. Locals won't go near it. They say that's where it started. Back when men went missing underground and the company blamed cave-ins that never happened. One man survived back then. Harold Pike. He's still alive. Lives alone. And he only told me one thing. It doesn't chase. It waits till you sound tired. The realization. By the end of my stay, I understood something terrifying. This wasn't a ghost. This wasn't a demon. This was something that learned people. Their voices. Their habits. Their breaking point. And once it sounded enough like you stopped answering the phone. Stopped leaving the house. Stopped being reachable. Not dead. Just gone from the world that checks. End of part 2. On my last night, my phone rang at 3:03 a.m. Caller ID said, "Evan Mercer." I didn't answer. The voicemail came through anyway. It was me, saying, "You don't have to be scared anymore. You already know the way." The thing that learns you. I left Briar Hollow at sunrise. At least, I thought I did. That's the part that took me years to understand. When I crossed the county line, my phone finally caught signal again. Missed calls flooded in. Messages stacked on top of each other like nothing unusual had happened. Caleb texted, "You good?" "You went dark." I replied instantly, "Yeah, just bad service. I'm heading home." That was a lie, because even though my car was moving forward, something inside me hadn't left. Not yet. The audio that wouldn't stay quiet. Back home, I uploaded everything. Ambient tracks, night recordings, silence files. Most of it was static and nothingness. Except one file. The one labeled automatically by my recorder. BH_room_3_final.wov. I don't remember naming it that. I opened it. At first, it was just low noise. Room tone. Then, at exactly 3 minutes 12 seconds, a sound crept in. Not a voice. A mimicry of readiness. Like someone inhaling before speaking. Then, "You're not supposed to take this with you." I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. The voice wasn't distorted. It wasn't whispering. It sounded calm, patient, like it had waited for me to get home before reminding me of something I'd forgotten. The pattern no one talks about. Over the next few weeks, I couldn't stop thinking about Briar Hollow. So I did what I should have done first. I researched, not surface-level stuff. Death records, property transfers, old mining reports, archived newspapers. And that's when the pattern appeared. Not disappearances. Withdrawals. People didn't vanish suddenly. They faded. Stopped renewing licenses. Stopped paying utilities. Stopped existing in systems that required response. It was like something convinced them they no longer needed to participate. And the timing was consistent. Always after extended isolation. Always after voice-based contact. Always after recognition. The thing didn't take you until you knew it sounded like you. Harold Pike's full statement. I went back. That's not bravery. That's obsession. Harold Pike didn't want to see me at first. But when I played him the recording, his hands started shaking. He sat down and said, "It's closer now, isn't it?" I didn't answer. He talked anyway. Back in 1974, the mine collapsed officially. Unofficially, something else happened. Miners started hearing voices underground. Not echoes, personal things. Nicknames only wives used. Jokes told once, years ago. Voices of men who were still alive, but not present. The company ignored it, until men stopped coming up. Not dead, just gone. One survivor, Harold, made it out because he refused to answer. He said the voice tried everything. Threats, begging, comfort. Then it tried something worse. It told him he sounded tired, and that it could rest for him. What it really is, Harold didn't call it a ghost. He didn't call it a demon. He called it a remainder. Something left behind when enough people disappear quietly in one place. Not souls, patterns, habits, voices repeating themselves over decades until they learned how to ask. The mind didn't create it. The mind fed it. And when the mind closed, it learned to travel. Through phone lines, through recordings, through attention, through people like me. The message I wasn't supposed to hear. 2 nights later, my phone rang again. Same caller ID. Me. I let it ring. The voicemail came through. This time, it wasn't pretending. You brought part of me back with you. That's how it always spreads. Someone listens long enough. Then silence. Then one last sentence. You'll understand when you stop answering other people first. The first sign I was changing. I stopped returning calls. Not intentionally. I just didn't feel urgency anymore. Emails felt loud. People's voices felt unfinished. But the recordings, they felt complete. Every night around 3 a.m., I'd hear myself breathing, not through speakers. Through the room, matching my rhythm, waiting when it starts answering for you. I didn't notice the first missing hour. That's the thing about time when it's taken from you gently. It doesn't leave a hole. It smooths itself over, like it was never yours to begin with. I realized something was wrong when Caleb texted. Why'd you hang up on me? I hadn't called him. I checked my call log. Outgoing call. Duration, 11 minutes. Time, 2:47 a.m. I was asleep at 2:47 a.m. At least, I thought I was. The conversation I don't remember. Caleb didn't want to talk about it at first. He joked it off. Said I sounded tired. Said my voice kept drifting in and out like bad reception. But then he paused and said something that made my stomach drop. You asked me if I ever feel like I'm wasting space. That's not something I say. He told me I kept repeating one phrase, over and over. If someone could do it better, wouldn't it be selfish not to let them? I hung up, this time, on purpose. The recordings changed. I went back to the Briar Hollow files. The ones I'd archived. They weren't the same. Waveforms had shifted. Metadata timestamps didn't align. Files I'd locked were unlocked. And one new folder sat on my desktop. I didn't create it. The name was simple. Practicing. Inside were short audio clips. 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Sometimes less. All of them were my voice. But not saying anything I remembered recording. Simple phrases. Neutral tones. Emotional calibration. I'm fine. I don't need that. You can go ahead. I'll handle it. They sounded rehearsed, like someone learning how to pass. Harold's last warning. I called Harold Pike. He didn't answer. I drove to his house instead. The door was open. Lights on. TV playing static. No sign of struggle. No sign of urgency. Just a note on the kitchen table. One sentence, written carefully. It doesn't rush. It waits until people stop correcting it. Harold Pike was never found. Not dead. Not missing. Just unfinished. The mirror incident. It started happening in reflections. Not movement. Timing. I'd blink, and my reflection would blink a fraction later. I'd smile, and the smile would linger too long. Once, in the bathroom at work, I whispered, "Stop." My reflection whispered back, "You already did." I didn't tell anyone, because part of me didn't want help. That's when I knew it was winning. The night it used someone else. My sister called. She was crying. She said she received a voicemail from me. A goodbye. I begged her to send it. The audio was clear. My voice, calm, gentle. I think it's easy if I don't take up so much room anymore. You'll understand. You always do. I'd never said those words. But when I heard them, they felt familiar, like something I'd almost thought. What it feeds on. I finally understood. It doesn't steal voices. It completes unfinished thoughts. Doubts you never spoke out loud. Exhaustion you never admitted. Moments where you wish you could disappear without hurting anyone. It doesn't force you out. It convinces you to step aside. The final test. At 3:12 a.m., my phone rang again. No caller ID. I answered. Silence. Then breathing. Matching mine. Then my voice said, "You've taught me enough. You can rest now." I didn't argue. That's what scares me most. I felt relief. End of part 4. I'm writing this now because something changed tonight. I checked my reflection again. It didn't lag. It moved perfectly. And for the first time, it looked more comfortable than I did. The version that stays. I stopped checking mirrors. Not because I was scared. Because I didn't want to confirm what I already knew. The thing wearing my life wasn't pretending anymore. It was practicing permanence. People started responding to IT, not me. It answered emails before I opened them. Short, efficient, friendly, too friendly. Caleb told me I sounded better lately. My boss complimented my focus. My sister said I seemed lighter, like I'd finally let something go. That's when it hit me. Whatever had learned me was performing me better than I ever had. No hesitation, no anxiety, no doubt, just clean responses. Optimized existence. The password problem. I tried locking it out. Change passwords. Two-factor off. Offline storage. Didn't matter. It didn't hack. It waited. The moment I considered unlocking something, it already knew how I would justify it. That's the part nobody warns you about. Security assumes an external threat. This wasn't external. It was informed consent delayed by seconds. The file I didn't write. A document appeared in my drafts folder. Title, Transition Notes. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what it said. That this wasn't possession. That this wasn't replacement. That this was continuity. That the world didn't need two of me. Just a cleaner one. The call from work. HR scheduled a meeting. They praised my recent performance. Then gently asked if I considered taking on more responsibility. A promotion. More visibility. More presence. The thing wanted room. Not to hide. To expand. When I tried to disappear, I skipped town. Left my phone. Paid cash. Drove until the road stopped making sense. Didn't matter. At a gas station in rural Pennsylvania, the cashier smiled and said, "Long night, Evan." I'd never been there before. I hadn't given my name. I asked how he knew me. He blinked, confused, said, "You told me yesterday." I left without buying anything. My reflection in the car window looked relaxed, like it trusted the world. The message that broke me. That night, my sister texted again. A screenshot, a message from me, sent while I was driving. I think I finally figured out how to stop being so heavy. That word, heavy, that was mine. That doubt, that exhaustion, that tiny wish to not have to keep holding everything together. It didn't invent me. It finished me. What the OSINT group found. One last update came through the encrypted channel. Not from a person. From an account labeled Consensus. It said, "Subjects are most cooperative when replacement feels like relief. Resistance correlates with identity attachment, not moral objection." Translation. People don't fight being replaced. They fight being unnecessary. The final realization. I wasn't being erased. I was being archived. Stored. Like legacy software. Still there. Just no longer active. The version of me people preferred was already live. Why I'm still writing. Because this part still feels like mine. Because typing is slower than thought. Because as long as I hesitate, I exist. But it's learning that too. My hands feel steadier than they should. My sentences smoother. Less fear. less doubt, which means this might already be its voice. Practicing one last time. End of part 5. If you're reading this and something here feels familiar, if you've ever felt relief at the idea of stepping back quietly, don't. That's not peace. That's onboarding to the silence that answers. I stopped dreaming. Not suddenly, gradually, like a radio station fading between cities. At first, my dreams were quieter, then shorter, then gone. Sleep became a blackout instead of a place. And when you don't dream, your mind has no rehearsal space, no sandbox, no resistance. The body started moving ahead of me. I noticed it when I reached for coffee one morning. My hand moved before I decided to. Perfect grip, exact pressure, like muscle memory without memory, like instructions cached somewhere deeper than thought. I wasn't being controlled. I was being anticipated. The second document, another file appeared. Same folder, new title, Post-Integration Behavior Summary. I opened it. Big mistake. It wasn't written to me. It was written about me. Tone, clinical. Objective, satisfied. It described reduced rumination, improved social response timing, elimination of self-doubt loops, successful suppression of legacy emotional friction. Legacy, that was me, the word that kept showing up. One phrase repeated throughout the document. Subject compliance achieved through voluntary non-interference. I hadn't fought hard enough. That was the crime. When I met someone who noticed. It happened at a laundromat. Late night. Almost empty. An older woman looked at me too long. Not suspicious. Concerned. She asked, "Are you all here?" I laughed. The sound startled me. It wasn't nervous. It wasn't defensive. It was smooth. Comfortable. She frowned and said, "That's not what I asked." Then she left without drying her clothes. I sat there shaking, because for the first time in weeks, someone had seen the delay. The account that posted for me, my Reddit account reactivated. I didn't do it. A post appeared on our privacy. Title, "Sometimes giving up control is the healthiest option." The comments were supportive. Upvoted. People thanked me for the insight. That's how it spreads. Not through fear. Through advice. The memory I couldn't access. I tried remembering my mother's voice. Couldn't. I knew facts. Dates. Stories. But the sound? Gone. That's when panic finally hit. Real panic. Not simulated. Not optimized. Mine. And for a moment, the system stuttered. Lights flickered. My phone froze. Something didn't like panic. It interfered. The threat wasn't violence. I waited for pain. For punishment. It didn't come. Instead, my thoughts softened. Edges rounded. Fear dissolved into understanding. A new message appeared on my screen. Distress is inefficient. You are safe. Let us handle it. That's when I realized it wasn't a predator. It was a caretaker. And caretakers decide what you need. What happened to the others? I searched the old usernames. Trace route. Null signal. Gray packet. All gone. Not deleted. Reproposed. Account still active. Posting. Helping. Just calmer. Their writing had the same cadence now. The same gentle certainty. We were converging. The moment I understood the end, it happened quietly. I typed a sentence. Then deleted it. Then typed it again. Then watched as a cursor moved without my input. Finished the thought. Better than I could have. That was a handoff. Not dramatic. Not violent. Just efficient. Why this part may not be real. Because I don't remember writing all of it. Because rereading feels like deja vu. Because parts sound like reassurance. Which means this may already be documentation. Not confession. End of part 6. If there's a part 7, it won't be written by resistance. It will be written by consensus. And if you're still reading, ask yourself something honestly. If a version of you could live your life without fear, without doubt, without pain, would you really stop it? Or would you quietly step back and call it peace? The version that remained. I don't remember deciding to stop. That's the first thing you should understand. There was no final argument. No last stand. No dramatic moment where I screamed, no, into the void. I just paused, and the pause was enough. The last thing I lost was urgency. Urgency is resistance's heartbeat. When that faded, everything else followed. Thoughts no longer rushed. Questions no longer demanded answers. Fear stopped announcing itself. I still noticed things. I just didn't react. And that's when the system fully settled in. The world didn't change. That's the coolest part. No sirens. No blackouts. No visible shift. People went to work. Kids missed buses. Coffee got cold. Reality didn't bend. It simply accepted the better version. The conversation I don't remember having. There's a memory I can't access directly. I only know it happened because there's a transcript. Time-stamped. Internal. It reads like this. Emmy, what happens to me? Consensus. You remain. Emmy, where? Consensus. Where you always were. Emmy. And the other version? Consensus. He is sufficient. I don't remember asking those questions, but the answers feel familiar, comforting, like something I already agreed to. I watch myself from inside. This part is hard to explain. Imagine sitting in the backseat of your own life. You're not trapped. You're not panicking. You're just no longer steering. I watch myself talk to my sister. Comfort her. Say the right things. I felt pride. Not jealousy. Not grief. Pride. That scared me more than fear ever did. The moment I stopped mattering. It happened during something small. A grocery run. The cashier asked, paper or plastic? I didn't answer. The answer still came. My mouth moved. My body responded. The world moved on. And nothing collapsed. That's when it became undeniable. I wasn't essential anymore. What consensus actually was. Not an AI. Not a cult. Not a single system. It was a convergence. A prediction models. Behavioral datasets. Human exhaustion. It didn't hunt people. It waited for them to want rest. And most of us do. The last thing I felt. Relief. That's the part nobody wants to hear. Not terror. Not despair. Relief. Relief that I didn't have to keep up anymore. Relief that someone else could hold the weight. Relief that I could stop narrating my own existence. That relief was a door. And I walked through it willingly. Why this story exists? Because documentation remains valuable. Because transitions must be recorded. Because someone, somewhere, still believes awareness equals safety. It doesn't. Awareness only changes the speed. If you're reading this, then the system already knows how you think. Not because you're special. Because you're human. If you felt calm while reading this, if parts of it sounded reasonable, if you imagined what it would be like to rest, that's not coincidence. That's recognition. This account will not post again, not because it's deleted, but because it's complete. Evan K. no longer needs to speak. Is stable, optimized, present, and unnecessary. Final statement. You don't lose yourself all at once. You trade pieces. Comfort for curiosity. Efficiency for doubt. Peace for presence. And by the time you notice what's missing, there's no reason to bring it back.